Hey YouTube, what's happening? Chris here. Wanted to bring you guys a little update on Bitcoin. Right now we're at 3612, guys, and we're down 0.25%. If you could like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, all that I really appreciate it. And what we're going to be getting into today is if I feel like this was a genuine move from Bitcoin, or is this just more of the pump and dump, and are we going to be going lower? So that's what we're going to address today. And guys, you know, this is where we have to be patient. We have to see what's going to happen. We did have that big impulse wave come in, and on the 4-hour chart here, we're up above the 200 moving averages. And what I want to do, I want to see if we find good support off that, if we get a bounce off that. And as you can see with the Fibonacci there, which we're gonna zoom in on, that 200's meeting around that 0.382, and I want to see if we're going to get a bounce off that, and if we're going to come up here and test that top yellow trend line that I have. Remember how important trend lines are. Breaks of trend lines are huge. A lot of times you'll have big breaks that'll happen and it'll just continue to run. Other times you're going to have a break and you're going to have a pullback, and other times you're going to have a break and then it's actually going to fall in the opposite direction. So we need to be prepared for all these things, and that's what we're going to get into today, guys. So if you could moon up those likes, hit it for me, I appreciate it, and we'll get into this. Alright, so guys, we've been looking at this wedge here. You can see we have one touch here, we have 2, 3, 4 basically, and then 5. We had this big wave come in, and I'm going to get the Fibonacci off just so we can see here quick. You see we had this big wave come in down here towards the bottom of this lower trend line. So we've been working in this channel, and we popped up here, and we made it over this high, this high, this high, this high, but we did not make it over this big one here yet. So we have to be very cautious of that, guys, that we're going to make that higher high. Ideally, we want to get up above this here where we had those tweezer tops, which is going to be around that 4,200. That's going to be a very tough spot to get up above. There's going to be a lot of bears that are waiting around in those areas. But what I liked from yesterday was the actual volume that came in right here. And what I want to tell you guys is don't FOMO into anything. Be patient. Whenever you have these big spikes, guys, a lot of the times they'll come back down eventually. Remember, we get those retracements to the 0.5 or the 0.618. And that's more so what I'm looking at. I want to see first, number one, on the 4-hour chart, if we're going to hold this 200 moving average as support. And then next I would be looking at this 20 EMA, which is pointing north right now, all the way up there, which is very good, guys. And we would see if we got support off that, which we're going to be paying attention to. Now what I want to do is zoom in, and we're really going to get into these candles and what's happening here. Alright, so from this move, when the big wave came in here, guys, that's where we're going to do our Fibonacci from. So I'm going to go from right here, and we're going to pull all the way up. So guys, we lost the 0.236, which was at $3,625, and we know that if we would have had a huge bounce off there and we would have got up through these yellow trend lines here on volume, that would have been extremely bullish. So our next spot we're going to be looking at is this 0.382 at 35.70. Now, in my opinion, this is just my opinion, not financial advice, this needs to hold right here, because there's a decent drop, guys. If we do lose this right here, most likely we'll come down to this 0.5 and we'll see what's happening around that 35.26, which is also going to coincide with the 20 EMA. Alright, and you can see our 50 down here is more so around that 0.786. But we've been getting a lot of retracements around the 50, guys, around the 0.618, and you know, when you have these impulses like that, you're always going to have a pullback. Whenever anything goes straight up, it's going to be coming back down too, and a lot of times you'll lose 50% of the move easily. And there's nothing wrong with that, guys. You'll lose 50% of the move, and then you'll go back up and we'll test this trend line again and see if we can get through it. You can see how we whipped up to it here. The next time we're going to see if we double top or if we're going to get pushed back down. And there's still a possibility of a lower low that could come in, guys. I'm definitely not saying that the bottom's in yet. This is great. This is a good sign that some good institutional money comes in. And guys, that's what it looks like. How basically you wake up, you go to bed one morning, you wake up, and like how Litecoin was, it was up 30%. That's big money. That's that institutional money, or big companies, hedge funds, things like that. That's the difference between that and retail. Retail, us type of people can never move the market like that. I mean, it happened so fast and so furious, guys, that all of a sudden we're cruising down here and we were at 3,300, and before you know it, you turn around and we're at 30. We got up to what, 37.13? That's a heck of a spike, and that's why we're in this market, guys. Now you have guys who are shorting and riding it back down before they long again, and that's what it is, guys. I mean, you don't have the emotional attachment to these coins. You can long, then you can short it, then you can long it again. And if you're able to see these things and study these things, then you're able to do it, and that's what we're trying to do here on this channel, guys. So the next thing we're going to do, I'm going to pull off this Fibonacci since we looked at those levels, and we're just going to do our support and our resistance. So we're really going to step back on this, guys. So just give me a second while we clear this off. And put down low what you guys have been doing with this. If you think the bottom's in, I want to know. I want you guys to put down low if you believe that the bottom's in. Or do you feel like this is just another one of those pump out, fake out type deals? So I really want to pay attention to patterns here, guys, and just look where we're at. And we're going to look at some macro, a little bit more on the macro fib here as well. So let's pull from here. All right. So we still haven't made it up above that 0.236, guys, of that last fall that we had. It's crucial we get back up above that. It's a hard resistance to get over, but once we get over it, we want to turn that into support. Remember, resistance becomes support. But you can see, look at all this resistance around here. Here, came up, got rejected. Here, we came up, got rejected, went back. So this is a really tough area. But if we do get up above it, guys, that's going to be a big deal. So what we have here is this first impulse. We're going to see if we can get a pullback. Then we can make an attempt at that. And that's to the bullish side. Now to the bearish side, if we roll over, we would look to see if we set this double bottom here around that 31.13. Remember, we always have to prepare for the upside, the downside, and the sideways. I'm going to continue to preach that, guys. Upside, downside, sideways. Have a plan. What's going to happen if this continues to run up? What's going to happen if we consolidate? What's going to happen if we go down to that double bottom? What are you going to do, and what are your plans for all those? Okay? Traditionally, we've been having, once we have this fall here, we've been having a reaction to that 0.618, which would have taken us back to 52.60, and we didn't have that. So in all actuality, guys, we definitely could roll back over. You know, this could have just been a pump and then we'll have a further dump, but it's definitely something to keep your eye on and pay attention to during these times. You know, whenever big money comes in like that, you have to raise your eyebrow and you have to start looking at it and saying, hey, you know, this is potential, this could happen, those different types of things. But we really want to see what we do with this 200 moving average on the 4 hour. I want to see if we get some support off that. Now if we step out to the 1 day, guys, let's do this. I'm going to pull off the fib here, and we're just, like I said, just stepping back. We're just moving backwards. So on the 1 day, guys, we still have a lot of room to get up to this 200-day moving average, and that around 53.11, right in that range. And that's what's going to happen for us to enter the next bull market for real, is a close up above that 200-day on the day. But right now we want to focus on getting above the 20, then above the 50, then the 100, then 200. And you just got to pick them off, guys. You got to take them one at a time as they come. And you can even start on the 5 or the 10-day moving averages. So right now we're up above the 20 EMA, which is good. We want to hold that as support, and that's going to be around 3,506. And then our 50, we're running into some trouble right here. If we zoom in, and we're going to have to wait for the close on the day, guys, but we're almost forming kind of that little doji candle up top there. So there's some indecision taking place, and it's happening with the 50 there, which we want to get over the 50, guys. It's a big deal that we get over that 50 and we hold above the 50. You see, we've gotten above it a few times. Let's see. So 50 was swooping down here. We came up above, and then we just kind of lost it, and then we fell back underneath it. We want to be able to hold it. But this is a great candle that came in, huge engulfing candle of this candle right here, and we're going to see what we do with it, guys, if this is the start of an impulse wave. But, you know, if you draw these trend lines, which we've talked about how important trend lines are, so we draw it from here and just take it through. We haven't broke through that yet, guys. We've wicked up to it, and we ran out of juice, so that's where we have to recharge on those pullbacks. And then we have to go forward again and see what happens. And you've seen we've wicked through it before, different things like that, but we haven't broken through it. And then you can also draw a trend line down here and pay attention to this and make sure this holds. You see what we're forming there? So we have higher lows that are in, and we have this large gap. And whenever you have that large gap, remember, it makes this trend line even stronger because it came back to it and held. And then we have those lower highs. So we're forming that triangle pattern. Now if it had a flat bottom, we'd be forming a descending triangle. But we're kind of almost in that symmetrical triangle. We're going to have to see what happens here. If we can recharge, maybe get a bounce off that 20 and then blast through. And there's a lot of room to run, guys. If we get over, see this area, like right in there, there's a lot of room to run because of how hard we fell. See this large candle here? We can make that up on the back side. But we're getting drawn closer and closer to this 200-day moving average. It's like a magnet. And we're eventually going to have to see what we do with it. Are we going to bounce off it, or are we going to break it, and are we going to hold it and treat it as support? So these are the things I'm looking at, guys. We've talked about volume. We've preached on volume. We need more volume. Yesterday we got a little volume, but we're going to have to see if we get any follow-through, continued follow-through with this. So be careful. Things can be a pump and dump. Remember that. And, guys, just don't get caught with your pants pulled down. And that's the thing. Don't FOMO over things. Like when you see something up 30%, don't go buying when it's up 30%. Wait for that nice pullback, that retracement if you want to get in and you want to go long. It will always come back down for the most part. You'll at least, if it pumps up, you'll at least most likely come down in this market to halfway or that 0.618. There's no point in FOMO, and just be patient, or you can always look for another coin or something else like that. Just, you don't want to be the guy holding the bag at the top. We've all been there, and we don't want to do that. So if you guys could like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. These are things I'm looking at, and we'll see what happens, guys, as the days continue. We'll see if this was a pump or if we're going to get that dump. We'll see. God bless each and every one of you. Moon up those likes, my friends.